beyond Hammett and the people that he influenced, Chandler, I think, is really important as far as the legacy that, well, he didn't create the legacy, but he described it in terms of what the hero of a PI or his type of PI novel should be. Is that something that you follow directly?
Yeah, I think, you know, he said, down these mean streets a man must go, a man who is not himself mean, who is neither tarnished nor afraid. He is the hero and he is everything. I
was going to bring it out of my pocket, but if you're going to do it from verbatim,
sorry,
that's fine.
Obviously he had an influence on me. And I think that's a great way of, that's a great model for an investigator, the knight errant. It's not a model that applies precisely to Sam Spade and Hammett, because Hammett's hero was not a hero, and he was tarnished. He wrote, I mean, and this is where we go from, say, hard-boiled into noir, is we've got a character who is morally complicated, who breaks his own moral codes and pays for it. The stuff that I write tends more toward the Chandler model, although I have certainly gotten angry enough emails about things that Ray Dudgeon does in the book that apparently are evil. He's a complicated guy, and he doesn't always do the right thing. But he's motivated, generally speaking, by good principles and by good intentions. And we all know about good intentions and where they lead. But Spade is not necessarily even motivated by good intentions. You know, he's looking out for number one.
I like that you put yourself in the Chandler model in that it is a series of books. So Ray must move on to, however damaged he is, he must move on to live again, which in the same way that Marlowe did. And what's interesting about that is the irony of the optimism that you find in these dark, violent books. That justice will prevail in the end to a certain extent.
To a certain extent. Imperfect justice.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I don't see the world, and I don't think that the universe in some books, in some mystery fiction, the idea is that the universe is in balance and it's a just place to live, and the murder or the crime puts the world out of balance, and then the detective, by solving the crime, puts the world back into balance. But I don't actually see the universe as a fundamentally just place. And while Ray strives to find some measure of justice, it's very clear by the end of the book that he may have found justice for one person, but that the world he didn't put the world back in balance. It never was in balance, and that fundamentally the society lives in is not a just place.
Well, not only is society not just, but Ray himself is not entirely just.
No, he's not.
He has a certain love, or at least attraction, to violence, which brought him away from the world of reporting and newspapers into this world where he may get beat up, and that'll be fine. He walks to his girlfriend's apartment after he's gotten beat up and said, "I'm sorry, I'm late.
Yeah.
The food is cold."
Well, yeah, he's not the most psychologically healthy person I've ever met. He's damaged, and he's trying to become a better man. He's not very good at it, but he's working at it, and he made some strides between the first and the second book, and hopefully I'm rooting for him. I hope he continues to become a better man. But he is attracted to violence. He has a deep wellspring of rage that he wants to find an outlet for. He's not going to beat up an innocent person. He's not going to unleash that rage on someone who he doesn't feel deserves it. But the truth is, once you accept that as a solution, and you justify its use, it's going to come back and bite you.
Well, one part of Chandler's description that transcends sort of that character is what he calls the rude wit. That sort of humor without mirth.
Yes.
Cracking jokes without any expectation of anybody finding it funny, but sort of the ironic comment.
Absolutely.
And you do that really well.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. That is something that is you see all the time when you deal with cops, firefighters, ER nurses, people who have to see people at their worst and people suffering on a daily basis. They develop a very black gallows humor where they find humor, and it's not, you're right, there's no expectation of a guffaw at the end. They're constantly cracking, not jokes, but they're acknowledging the ironies around them. Mm-hmm. And it may sound very cynical, but it is in fact a form of self-defense, of self-protection, of keeping that emotional distance that you need to be able to do that job on a daily basis and go back and do it again the next day.
So we've got sort of a breadth of PIs that have come through history, but sharing a similar legacy. But when those PIs are translated to the screen, are they always film noir?
No, they're not. I think they, film noir is everybody argues about the definition of noir. Yeah. But I think that essentially in noir, there are no happy endings, and the protagonist causes his own downfall or her own downfall. And there are a lot of detective stories where the detective is a white knight and doesn't morally transgress. But in noir, the protagonist is the cause of his own suffering. And I think that the Maltese Falcon, although a lot of people argue how noir it is, it's certainly proto-noir. It's set the stage. I don't think you can look at the end of this film and think that Spade isn't going to suffer for the rest of his days for the choices he makes in this film. He may not be, as in many noir stories, on his way to the gallows. He may not be on his way to prison. But he is, I think, going to carry this wound for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. And to that extent, I think it is noir.